NVIDIA is really sorry about the way things are going with the 3080. Last week, we kind of predicted that something was going to happen, and well, it sure did. Let's get into this and see what you can actually do about it right now. What's up, everybody? Ronal back with another TechXP and a follow-up to my video last week where we talked about kind of what the hype was missing about the RTX 3080 and my prediction that the actual launch of the card wasn't going to go so well. Now, for those of you that have been around for a long time, you're probably like me, sitting back on the sidelines just kind of watching and popping some popcorn as every NVIDIA launch inevitably has shortages that create all kinds of crazy demand and then weird accusations of bots buying up everything and all kinds of crazy stuff that happens. If this was your first time involved in something like this, or say you're new to PC gaming, you may not realize that this actually happens almost every time that a new product comes out, whether it's a video card, whether it's a new processor. Always it turns into a supplier issue and we've got all these problems. But this time specifically, what we're having happen here is the 8nm process for creating the chips that are on the cards themselves come from Samsung, and this proprietary process is going to have supply chain issues for NVIDIA throughout the launch of this entire product. And in an interesting development, NVIDIA has actually changed the card that they normally would give to the suppliers to modify. So let's say you have Asus or EVGA or Zotac or your favorite card manufacturer, MSI for example, whatever. They get what's called a reference card, and then they can add things to that card and they can make it their own funky design, add LED lights, different types of cooling blocks, whatever they want to do, they can make that. And then of course NVIDIA sells something called the Founders Edition directly. Now this is the first time, at least in a long time, it's the first time in the previous 4 or 5 generation of cards where NVIDIA is holding back some secrets and some efficiencies in cooling to their own cards that they sell directly to the consumers. The efficiency of the fan and heatsink block on the actual Founders Edition cards that come from the NVIDIA store, it's a different design. NVIDIA did not release that to the suppliers, and so that design is actually much more efficient at dissipating heat. Doesn't mean that the reference design that they released to MSI and to all the other suppliers is bad. It's just not as good. I think this is super interesting because NVIDIA is making a play to have, I believe, a higher end product sold directly from them. We'll see how that ultimately ends up. I'm not sure how that's going to work out for them, but it is something that's different. So it's something that is noteworthy. Now, if you're like me and you're looking at this and you're saying, okay, so NVIDIA apologizes for the 3080 launch mess, whatever, but what do I do? There's a couple of things. So first of all, a lot of people have been speculating that there's been bots that have been buying the cards so they can be sold immediately onto eBay. And one of the most interesting things that came up in my research on the bots is Newegg actually said that they had bot protection in place and that they were just sold out that quickly. Now, other retailers specifically said that they were sold out in just a couple seconds. To the NVIDIA store itself crashed during this whole launch. So we know that there's pent-up demand for this product out there, but man, it is pretty crazy what's actually happening with the order process right now. And there's other reports saying that if you actually clicked notify me when the product was available, you didn't get a notification. And then some other people are saying they got a notification, they tried to actually order it, and by the time that they clicked on checkout, it was out of stock. So really, we've got kind of a mess going on right now from NVIDIA. And so now that they've apologized, I wanted to give you a couple tips on what to do at this point. Because if you went out and sold your other card on eBay, say you had a 2060 or a 2070 or 2080, and you thought, today was the day, I'm going to get myself a brand new card and everything will be just fine. I do kind of feel bad for you, but all is not lost. You do have some options. There are plenty of cards available to buy out there right now that are on the used market. The used market for the 2080 Ti has pretty much stabilized. The used market for the 2070s is pretty good. And the other thing to consider is how much graphics power do you really need? Now, special shout out to the comment section on the first video. One of the people commented and brought up a great point, and it's that if you don't have a good enough monitor, upgrading your video card is really not going to help you. Let's say you're gaming in 1080p on a 144 megahertz monitor. You're already going to be doing pretty well if you have a high-end RTX 20 series card. So the 3080, aside from the hype and aside from everything that's awesome about it, may not necessarily be that necessary of an upgrade for you in the short term. Something to think about. Now, if you're sitting on an older card, like a 10 series card, 1060, 1070, all is not lost. You have several options for you. Even if it takes months for the 3080 supply to catch up with demand, there still are other alternative options out there. Like I said, you can spend $200-250 on a used 20 series card that's out there. You can go AMD. The AMD 6000 series is going to be out there, and those cards are no slouch. They may not be exactly on par with the 3080 depending upon who you watch and who sponsored the video on the benchmarks that they created. Always keep that in mind. And also, whatever you're going to be doing for the general gamer who's going to game at 1080p, which is most of us, a lot of people do not have anything different than a standard 1080p 144 megahertz monitor. You don't need a 3080 card to really game and have a good time using that setup. If you're gaming at 4K on some kind of crazy expensive panel that's, whatever, you are not the norm. And so you can't assume that everyone else has that, because most people don't have that and most people don't need that. So I just want to give you a little bit of perspective and say that the world may be coming to a little bit of a shaky head here with the RTX 3080 situation, but all is not lost. Go out and get yourself a used 20 series card on eBay or a new AMD 6000 series card when they come out next month. It will play whatever you throw at it on a 1080p 144 megahertz monitor for a long time, and you'll be happy with it. And then next year, in the middle of the year, if the supply stuff gets figured out and Samsung gets caught up with supplying these cards, then go out and pick up a 3080 because it's an awesome product. I'm looking forward to someday having one. I just know from my own experience that NVIDIA does this every single time. And I try to make a very nice but pointed video at the people who were thinking that they could just run down to their local computer parts store and it would just be there. And I've actually heard some funny stories from people DMing me directly about trying to get the cards. One person said that he went to his local Micro Center and he was like number 80 in line before it even opened, and he was like, this isn't going to work. I think it's kind of interesting because where I live in my part of the country, we have a Micro Center. The line was wrapped around the building at 2 hours before they opened. And so again, they're not going to have that many cards in stock to sell. Let's say they had 15 total, and so there's no point in waiting in line on day one. A lot of new hardware in the PC world is like this. If you're new to PC gaming, if you're coming from the console world, or maybe you're just building your first PC and this is your first experience with a launch, congratulations. You have experienced what it is like for a graphics card manufacturer to spend months and months and months of hyping up a product and not deliver on the first day that it's supposed to be available. It's happened many, many times, and it will happen again many, many times, unfortunately. But that's it for now. I'd love to know what your experience has been looking for a 3080, and if you're still going to try to get one, or what your alternative strategy is. Let's talk down in the comments below. Join Discord. Let's talk about this as a community. Help each other out. If you find a good deal, if you find one that's available, maybe you can help someone out who really does actually need one. And that's it for this video, so I'll catch you on the next one.